Welcome back to Hawkeyed with me, Dave O'Hara, and Hellerball, Rick Heller. I got to shake the hand one more time, Dave. Rick, you're very welcome. Thanks for being here. Head baseball coach here at the University of Iowa. We are at the University of Iowa training facility here on campus, and Coach Heller kind enough to join us for the whole show. This is Hawkeyed with me, Dave O'Hara, and Rick, I got to tell you, just telling stories and talking off the air, and it's taken us forever to do this. We record this on Wednesday, June 28th, and I say forever for Rick's time because he's a busy guy. But, man, this guy loves talking baseball, and I love talking sports, but especially baseball. Let's talk some talent here in Iowa that has gone on to the major leagues. Of course, we're going to start with Mitch Keller, Cedar Rapids kid, with the Pirates now, probably going to be a starter or at least pitch in the All-Star game for the Pirates. Slowed down a little bit here, but had a heck of a start to the season, was their opening day starter, their number one guy. Colin Ray from Cascade, a guy you know well from University of Northern Iowa, then went to Indiana State with you, pitching for the Brewers now, had a great outing the other night and having a nice season. Also Sean Manaea at Indiana State, Sean now with the Giants. With another guy from Iowa that you know, your home area, from down in Ollie, Iowa, population 198, Pekin High School, used to be Pekin of Packwood back in the day. You're from Cardinal of Eldon High School down by Ottumwa. Keaton Wynn, we'll talk about him in a little bit. AJ Puck, with the Puck family out of Cedar Rapids Wash and the big football tradition his uncles and everybody had here, the family at University of Iowa Athletics. They played at University of Florida. But there are some great names right now, and of course AJ Puck with the Marlins had some arm trouble. Most of those guys, by the way, Coach, train with my good buddy Jay Wannell at Dugout Sports in Southwest Cedar Rapids or Fairfax, Iowa. So they work with a former Hawkeye great here, Cal Eldred, an Iowa kid, out of the interesting thing I always say, Urbana, and you and I predate this. It used to, now it's Centerpoint Urbana, but it was Urbana High School back in the day. So there's a wealth of names right there as I see your eyes rolling back going, man, I've seen all these kids. Let's start with the kid from your home area, Keaton Wynn. And you and I talked a little bit off the air. He went to Iowa Western and then got into the San Francisco Giants organization. But neat that he got to make his debut against the home area, St. Louis Cardinals. Yeah. Got a 4-inning save. Talk about when you went and saw him play, some of the things you saw in him.
No, I mean, I'm super happy for Keaton. And he has great family, awesome family. We watched Keaton play a lot, starting when he was pretty young. As we were saying before, he was one of those guys that as a recruiter, you're like, man, what do you do? Because you see what's there. And, where he was at coming out of Pekin, we were like, what's best for Keaton? Is it best for him to go, to a junior college and be able to get out there and pitch more often? Because at that time, the pitching was loaded here, and he probably would have had to set a year, maybe longer. So our thought was, hopefully we can get Keaton back when he heads, out to Iowa Western. Well, he went into pro ball, and look what he's done. I mean, he's just continued to get better and develop. And hats off to Keaton, man. He's done a great
story,
job.
isn't it?
Yeah, it really is a great story, and super happy for him being a Southeast Iowa guy too.
Yeah.
And you don't see that often, and like I said, he's got an awesome family.
Yeah, then you take a look at Mitch Keller, straight out of high school, Cedar Rapids Xavier, works his way through the Pirate organization. Now it's really come full circle with him. As I mentioned, AJ Puck, Cedar Rapids Wash, had some injuries. Guys you've looked at, guys you've talked to. I mentioned earlier about Cal Eldred with his son CJ being here, and he's in pro ball too, trying to work his way around. And his younger brother Luke went to Dallas Baptist, trying to work his way through minor league ball. I think it's underestimated, is why I'm bringing this up to you.
Yeah.
Because I want fans to know when they say, well, why didn't Coach Heller in Iowa baseball get Keaton Wynn or all these other guys? Well, you just stated it right there. Development. Are they going to have a chance to play here? Others have, like in Mitch Keller's case, you go to the major leagues and work your way through the minors. So talk about that a little bit.
Just really happy for Mitch. I mean, he's lighting it up.
Big time,
and he's worked really hard. And I know he trains hard in the off season. He's a great guy. Don't get a chance to talk to him a whole lot, but I thought we were going to get to see him this year because he had sent word he was maybe needing a place to come throw, and we were like, yeah, come on over.
Yeah.
So maybe next off season I'll get to see.
I'll
Mitch
put in a word with Dugout Sports. Yeah.
And same thing with AJ, and had talks with both those guys, and great guys, and super happy for their success, and like you said, it's awesome to see that kind of talent coming out of our state, and then Cal, working with Jay, and those guys are doing a great job,
Yeah.
an awesome job over there. And Cal's baseball royalty here, and CJ, having a chance to coach CJ and being able to see how competitive and how tough CJ is, and has such a good pitcher, and hoping that things can keep moving for him. And it's just it's been great to see.
Yeah, we had when I had about back-to-back weeks Cal Eldred, and we talked about pitching in the World Series, and he got to play in his home area his whole career, in Milwaukee, Chicago, and then St. Louis. But it's interesting that you mentioned this when we talk about guys going on like AJ Puck. And viewers, I want you to know this. Rick's too humble to say it. AJ thought so much of coach and his staff. He went to Indiana State before going to Florida. I mean, that tells you something. If a kid's willing to go to Terre Haute,
he gave us a shot.
Hey, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Kid's willing to go to Terre Haute in the winter as opposed to considering the Florida Gators. But I think that's a great story. But you and I have talked about this, and I want to bring this on the air to your exact point. I think a lot of people underestimate above the Mason-Dixon line, or if you're not playing in the Sun Belt, you ain't nothing. And I'll use their Southern, you ain't nothing. Sorry for the poor English, but you get what I mean. There's many, many great players come out of the state of Iowa. Some you are able to keep here at Iowa. Others go other places, but that's the thing I love the most. Not that we don't mind the Brennan DeRiggies and kids from other areas of the country coming here to play, but I think the state of Iowa is highly underrated. So talk about that a little bit if you would. Maybe not too much because we don't want other schools coming to recruit these Iowa kids.
Right.
But let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, I mean, you think about it, the talent in each state is the same.
Yeah.
It's just how much have they played, how much have they trained, how much have they developed.
Yep.
Things have changed so much in the training world the last 10, 15 years, and kids are getting quality instruction, like you said, with Cal and Jay, the guys at the Perfect Game stuff. I mean, there's just so many more opportunities that are out there to develop and train properly. There's opportunities to play in the fall. There's opportunities to play in the spring. We talked, I think, the first time we talked about the fact that, we still like multi-sport athletes.
Yes.
But there are guys that are spending way more time training at baseball in our state. And so the quality of the athlete, like I said, is pretty much the same everywhere. It's just, do they have a chance to play? Do they have a chance to train? Are they around people that can help them get better? And we just have way more opportunities. The guys, the guys in Des Moines are doing a great job. I mean, we have just pockets all over the state where there's good training for the kids, and you see the result. And the amount of players. I don't know if the viewers know this, but after this draft, we're going to be right at 40 draft picks since I've been at Iowa, which is. I'm pretty proud of, because it wasn't going that way, for 10, 15 years. And just the outright number of guys that we've had get the opportunity to play professional baseball. And the viewers might also not know that the draft is different now. It used to be 40 rounds. After COVID, they cut about half of the minor league teams. They cut that draft back to 20, which makes it quite a bit more difficult to get your foot in the door, because there's just less opportunities. And we're just continuing to roll guys out there. But whether they play for me or don't play for me, I always root for the guys from our state. We didn't talk about Colin Ray, and let's talk about Colin.
Well, briefly I did when I said he played for you.
But in detail.
Yeah, let's go into it, because that is a fascinating story. What happened to him from San Diego to Miami, and now we're battling back. And I'm really glad you circled back in more detail. Thank you.
Yeah, and then I guess the way I was going to start it out was that Colin is the last remaining player to have played at Northern Iowa in baseball. Colin was a freshman, and he actually pitched in the last game against Bradley that we won in the bottom of the ninth.
I'm glad you went there.
In walk-off fashion to end baseball at UNI, but then went to a junior college in Florida, and he ended up coming and playing for me at Indiana State. Had a really good year and was drafted and signed with the Padres. Ended up making it to the big leagues with the Padres. And then to your point, had the trade situation with the Marlins, and then his arm gave out, and ended up having surgery, and the Marlins released him, the Pod had to go back to the Padres because of the arm injury, and then they released him, and then the Cubs gave him a shot, and he went and pitched for the I-Cubs in Des Moines, and I think a lot of us were confused as to why the Cubs didn't bring him up. He was the AAA Pitcher of the Year. And in that league, for those who follow that, I mean, it's a hitter's league. A lot of offensive.
The Pacific Coast League runs it up. Yes.
And he was a pitcher of the year in that league, and they didn't bring him up. And Colin ended up going to Japan, which was good for him. He had a chance to play for some money, and he spent 2 seasons over in Japan. And for the baseball nuts out there, the president of Colin's team was Sadahara O, and one of
big kick, big hit. Remember that back in our day?
He's the all-time leader in home runs.
Had the high leg kick,
yes, and I'm not a big memorabilia guy, and I don't bug people for that, but I asked Colin to get me a Sadahara O signed bat, and he doesn't sign very many, and they kind of keep people away from him. So Colin brought me a bat back, and I was so happy that he did that, and I'm really proud of that. And then the thing, they also might not know, like Colin comes and trains with us in the off season, and he's here with us until he leaves for spring training. And then just super happy for Colin this year. In fact, Marty Sutherland, my assistant, and I were looking today. We're trying to track days when we can find a day where he's pitching in Milwaukee where we can get up and see Colin throw this year.
I'm so glad you went into detail there, and I didn't mean to gloss over him. So I'm really glad you talked about the connection to University of Northern Iowa, Indiana State, and now to you. And just, Coach, the time police for you is going to be honest again, because you and I could go on for days about baseball, and we do, and I can't even begin to say thank you enough for taking the time to do a follow-up interview with us after your banner season. Folks, there he is, Iowa native, Heller Ball, University of Iowa head baseball coach Rick Heller. Rick, thanks so much.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate having me on.
You're very welcome. Truly my pleasure.
To have a strong finish, you need an excellent start. It's true on the track and also in the field. That's why Mershman Seeds works tirelessly to deliver cutting-edge technology year after year. Introducing Starting Line, Mershman Seeds' latest advancement in seed treatment, now providing added protection from white mold and sudden death syndrome all season. Ask for Starting Line seed treatment from Mershman Seeds, your friend in the field.
So Bobby Hansen again, former Iowa Hawkeye basketball playing great and former Chicago Bull NBA champion, and won a state title at Dowling Catholic in '79. And what brought you to Iowa City from Des Moines? I know the great Lute Olson had to, but as a kid growing up, we're all in a relatively same generation here, Bobby. And the Vince Brookins was here before you, Bruce Sky King back in the day, Candy LaPrince, all that, Glenn Vidnovic, Miller six-pack team in the late '60s, early '70s. But then we go into your era, your freshman year. So let's get you on campus with Lute. What brought you here? And what a freshman year. Who knows they're going to go to the Final Four their freshman year.
Yeah.
With Ronnie Lester.
Who knew what was around the corner, but you had that. You had Ronnie Lester.
That helps.
You had an All-American, a first-team All-American as your secret weapon. Your Michael Jordan before there was a Michael Jordan. And that was one of the main driving factors as you're weighing what college you're going to go to. It's like, well, to play with a guy like that would be pretty awesome. Recruited by a few schools, not a ton, but Mark Gannon had committed to the University of Iowa. Drake was a hometown school, and obviously my mother wanted me to stay home and live at home and go to Drake.
Oh, sure.
I was like, scratch that off.
Not happening,
right
Mom.
away. No, Mom, we're not doing that. My father was a Hawkeye fan.
Okay.
Bob Sr., he loved the Hawks, Hawkeye football. So he was always kind of going that way, and he liked Lute. My mother and father both, appreciated Lute taking the time to come to Des Moines and be the main recruiter on that, and got to know him and his wife Bobby Olson as well. And then, I had Texas A&M was on my radar. You know, you talk about NIL opportunities. There was a few way back before NIL was NIL, but that was intriguing to an 18-year-old kid when my mother said, "Over my dead body."
Yeah,
So
eligibility might have been an issue.
that
then.
is not going to happen, or you will not come back in this house. So, lo and behold, Iowa, Lute was still recruiting hard, and I remember the conversation. This is back when you decided in April of your senior year. And I was confused. I didn't know what to do. My father said, "You go to Iowa. You know, you're here. You're from the state. That's my vote." My mother kind of just said, "Whatever." At that point, and Lute called on the telephone back when they called you on the phone, right? He said, "Hey, Bobby, how you doing? You know, we got to make a decision here. You know, I got to move on if you don't want to use a scholarship here." So I'm like, "Okay, Coach, I need some time. Can I have a little time?" He said, "You bet." I said, "Well, how much time do I have?" He said, "You got 30 seconds. True story. And I went,
That is a little time.
Yeah, that's a little time. The air comes out of your head as an 18-year-old knucklehead. And I said, "I'm coming to Iowa." I didn't want to let that opportunity slip away at that point.
Us.
So, yeah, he said that you made a good decision. You'd be a nice addition.
Bobby, thank you so much.
All right, David. Anytime, bud. Thank you.
I greatly appreciate it.
Who do you trust to produce the best yield? A seed company that's chasing technology, or a seed company that's writing a book on it? Mershman Seeds is a leader in technology. We're independent and family owned. Our sister company, MS Technologies, provides access to world-class traits and genetics. And our starting line seed treatment is second to none. Who can you trust with your yields? Mershman Seeds, your friend in the field.
Welcome back to Hawkeyed with me, Dave O'Hara. There he is, Cal Eldred. You saw him last week with me and Jay Wannell from Dugout Sports. Cal, former Major League Baseball star, pitching star, former Iowa Hawkeye pitching star, former pitching coach for the Kansas City Royals, and now running the pitching academy or pitching clinic at Dugout Sports in Southwest Cedar Rapids or Fairfax, Iowa with our buddy Jay Wannell. So, Cal, thanks again for joining us. And how's everything going with you, man? I know you guys are crazy busy in a great way. How's everything going with you since you left Major League Baseball last year as a pitching coach after the last 4 years? Are you liking coaching with younger kids than the older adults?
I'll tell you, coaching players at an elite level it's pretty addicting. But yet, Dave, you and I talked off the air a little bit about the fact that I've been gone away from this area for the better part of 30-some years, 33 years, and haven't been home. My wife, Christy, and I have raised 5 children. She's homeschooled them all. That was one of the ways we could be together as a family moving throughout the United States. And fortunately got a chance to play and coach very close to home. So we always had a home base here in the Cedar Rapids, kind of Center Point, Urbana area, Mount Vernon area. And so we're back home now. It's I'm kind of really honestly in a little bit of a time of, okay, what is next? But while we've been doing that, we've been doing some cool things different times over at Dugout Sports with Jay. And Jay opens the door up for guys like my older son CJ, who's been in professional ball, now playing with the Kane County Cougars in independent ball, to come in and work out. And he's got a whole handful of professional players that come in and work out. And so I'm there with, the Vanscoy boys who have been playing professional ball and then doing some clinics and stuff for young kids. And either way, being able to help kids, it's fine with me, whether they're 5 or 6 or whether they're closer to their 40s like Zach Greinke.
Yeah. It's intriguing that you say that with being homeschooled, you and your wife, because that's the chalkboard behind you. You and I were talking off the air, so I love that. But also, as I mentioned in the previous week, so I want to give a little retread for the viewers if they missed it last week. Cal, as he mentioned, from Center Point, Urbana. Before it was Center Point, Urbana, it wasn't CPU, it was Urbana High School. But Cal and I have a lot of mutual friends, and it's just interesting. We were talking off the air, to Cal's point, about all the people we know similar to each other or around each other's circles. But again, as I mentioned, former Hawkeye pitching grade and pitched in the major leagues for the Milwaukee Brewers, the Chicago White Sox, and the St. Louis Cardinals finished his career, pitched in a World Series, but also was a pitching coach for the Kansas City Royals. So, Cal, as we go through this, and you mentioned mentioned, your boys played big-time competitive Division I college baseball, CJ at Indiana and at University of Iowa, but also then Luke at Dallas Baptist. So for you, talk about your Iowa Hawkeye experience, small town, north of Cedar Rapids, small town, Urbana, Iowa guy, going to the legendary Dwayne Banks. The stadium's named after him. It wasn't at the time, but you played for Dwayne Banks at Iowa, and then you get drafted by the Brewers in the first round. Take us through that process, a small town kid going to a bigger, smaller town in Iowa City, and then to a bigger, smaller city, small market city in baseball, and the Milwaukee Brewers. Talk about that for us, if you would, please, Cal.
Dave, it was something that as a kid, all the way back whenever, the teachers gave you the paper and said, let's just write what you want to be when you grow up. It was always, I want to be a professional athlete. And, we didn't have that many sports that were offered at Urbana High School. I graduated with 20 other students. So it wasn't a big school, but, there was a lot of pride in that town, a lot of really good athletes in the class that I was a part of, both the girls were athletic and the boys too. So it was really a cool thing, but getting a chance to be an Iowa Hawkeye was pretty cool. And I think my first love was probably basketball. It was. But then as a junior, when I was playing some Legion baseball for my uncle, Mel Wessel ran that Legion program. There was two of them, the red and the blue team. Played on the red team for Kenny Sharper. And Jim Vanscoy was the pitching coach there. Being able to do that and then go on and play at the University of Iowa, it was a big deal. And I realized baseball was probably my chance to be a professional. And so went to Iowa for 3 years. And Coach Banks, you know what? He was tough on guys. There is no doubt. But that was exactly what most of us needed. And some of that's still needed today. It's a little harder to do it.
By tough on you guys, excuse me, do you mean like he was a taskmaster, or how so do you mean that? Discipline?
Yeah, I think from a discipline standpoint, if you don't go to class, he's all over you. And if you're making sure you're getting your grades. And then the other thing, because he knows that most of us weren't going to go on to play professional baseball. We were going to represent the University of Iowa and the athletic department in jobs in everyday life. And you find out whether you go on to professional baseball or not, you still eventually end up back in that realm, which is great. So, but then also from a baseball standpoint, he wanted you to do it right. He was more of a Bobby Knight kind of coach, get it done and get it done right. I want you to do it now. And you know what, that push and that drive, I saw a lot of players that it was hard for them, but then it ended up really paying off for them.
So we've got to talk World Series. So for the Cardinals, as you mentioned, you're very fortunate to play college close to Urbana, just on I-380 from south of Cedar Rapids into Iowa City. Then you go to Milwaukee, Midwest, or close to the area. And then the Chicago White Sox briefly, close, Midwest. And then you go to St. Louis to finish out your career. And the World Series. And I know it seems like a very basic question, but an obvious one. What is that like? Is it what you think it would, what us viewers would think it would be like? Going to the big show would be one thing, Major League Baseball, but it's the World Series, Cal.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, that's the highlight of my baseball career, is being able to pitch in the World Series. I wasn't, I was involved with the Cardinals in 2006, doing some advanced scouting and stuff when the Cardinals actually won the World Series. I played there 3, 4, and 5. But man, in those last 2 years, we won over 200 games. I mean, it was incredible teams that I had a great being blessed to be a part of. And there were opportunities to go other places to maybe start, be a starting pitcher. But man, I was like, I've been doing this too long. I want to be a part of a team that's got a chance to win the whole thing. And fortunately, I get a chance to pitch in Fenway in both Game 1 and Game 2. And that was the first place I pitched on the road as a Milwaukee Brewer. So, and I mean, it was just something, it is everything you think it is. The cool thing about it, though, is that when you're the final two teams playing and you're one of those players that get to play, when you come out of the bullpen and you head out on the field and you start playing, you realize it's just like you're playing in the backyard with your buddies. It's still a game. There's still 60 feet 6 inches to home plate, and you're competing against a hitter, and you're trying to win that one game. And so that was so cool to me that it was the World Series, but you can break it down into, playing in the backyard with your buddies or in high school or college. It was just a really, really awesome experience.
Great catching up with you, and I'm sorry it has been so long on this end, and I'm glad we got to talk off the air a little bit about all the mutual friends that we have, and I look forward to doing this again with you whenever it works in your schedule, Cal Eldred. Thanks so much.
My pleasure, Dave. Anytime.
So for Rick Heller, I'm Dave O'Hara on Hawkeyed, edited by production partner Michael Merrick. And to you, the viewers, thanks so much. That's all from us. Thanks to all of you. And as always, thanks for staying tuned at the end of the program for these rolling credits to give our advertisers and sponsors the attention and credit they so richly deserve. And as always, to our aforementioned guests and to you, the viewers. That's all from us at Hawkeyed. Thanks to all of you.